What's going on, guys? It's the RPO podcast, and we are back live. It's your favorite college football podcast. We'll be talking all types of draft, analysts, and we get into my favorite side of the ball. We go on defense. So, what's going on, guys? This is Jerome Johnson, your humble host. We got my man Ben Swartz right here. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing good. Happy to be back again and ready to talk about some of these crazy edge rushers and other D linemen.
Let's go. Let's get it. And we got my man, the myth, the legend, Ray Roberts, right down there. How you doing, Ray?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Doing good. Ray's not even paying attention to us. He don't really like us today. What's going on?
I am.
It's preoccupied.
I had a crazy day at work today, man. So it's all good.
Understandable. Yeah. Hey, man, super excited to get to this because, like I said, super excited about the defensive side of the ball. My favorite position. I played DB, so we get into that. The dark side. This is my favorite position because not everybody loves the defense. Defense don't get all the love anymore, man. The offensive give all the love. They got the receivers and the flashy tight ends and blah, blah. Nobody really talks about the defense anymore. Everybody wants to see points scored and stuff like that. I know me and Ray like to see a good defensive side of the ball. I don't know about you, Ben, but this is my favorite part. So if you guys haven't seen the offensive side, if y'all want to see the offensive side, y'all can go back and watch all that old podcasts. We did that a couple of weeks ago, so you can check that out on YouTube. But today we're talking about the defense. So I want to get right into it. We're doing edge rushers and interior defensive linemen, and we're gonna get right into it. Ben, I'm gonna start you off right away. Let's get into your top 5 interior defensive linemen. Get right into it. Let's go.
Absolutely. So we're going to start right away with Levi Ozark out of Washington. So, I mean, he has incredible athleticism and has demonstrated a lot of quickness from the inside as a pass rusher. And one of the best parts about him as a prospect is the way he's able to gain leverage on these offensive linemen. And because of that, he's incredibly difficult to block in single situations. So as he continues to develop in the NFL, I can see him drawing a lot of double teams, taking a lot of attention away from some of the other edge rushers that are on his team. And so he's number 1 up there for me. Like I said, the combination of athleticism, toughness, endurance, I really think he's got it all to be a top interior defensive lineman. Number 2, we're going to go Christian Barmore out of Alabama. He hadn't really played a ton before his this past year at Alabama, and he hadn't shown too much. But this last year, he was really incredible. And if you're looking for some fun film to watch, go back and watch him in the national championship game. Barmore was an absolute game wrecker. He's got a lot of he's got a lot of athleticism and a lot of raw power that he's able to use from that inside spot. So he's great against the run and able to shed blocks. And his pass rushing is pretty good, but it could use a little bit of improvement. But, as an interior guy, I see him projecting really well. He's big. He's 6'5", around 310 pounds. So I think he's got a lot of good qualities that'll translate well to the NFL. Third spot, we got Tommy Togiai. I believe I pronounced his name right, out of Ohio State. And he's the kind of guy that I think might be one of the better run defenders in this class. He offers a lot of great leverage on the line. He's able to really sit under the pads of the offensive linemen, and he does that with a lot of consistency as well. He's got great hand usage like a lot of the other guys in this class, and his mobility is something that is really good for his size and his frame, but I think it's also something that could use a little bit of work. He's not the longest interior defender, but he has shown that at Ohio State he's able to shed blocks with some good consistency. Coming in at number 4, we got Davion Nixon out of Iowa. This guy, again, is one of those big 6'3", 305, 310-pound guys that is going to be your prototypical kind of 3-technique front defender in the NFL. He's had a really good season at Iowa this last year, and it's really interesting because he's a JUCO transfer. So this is just another example of guys that are not top prospects, not going to these big-time schools right out of the gate, that have developed over time, shown some really great skills, shown that they're coachable, and someone that's going to be really good in the NFL, I think. He's got really good length, really violent and really quick hands. And so he's able to really defend well against the run and shed blocks, and he's able to find his way in some of those cracks too to break into the pocket. And then last but not least, in the number 5 spot, we have a guy that didn't play this last year. We have Tyler Shelvin out of LSU. I've talked about some of the other guys being big. This guy is huge, 6'3", 345 pounds. He's outstanding against the run. He's going to draw a lot of double teams in run situations. He's great at block shedding. He's got long arms, so he's able to wrap up on those arm tackles, and he's strong. I will say he's not the greatest against the pass rush, but I think if he's on an NFL team and he's starting, they're not really going to be asking him to do that too much. He's going to be mainly a run defender that's dominant against single blocking situations. And like I said, he's going to draw a lot of double teams, make a lot of arm tackles, and just be a really solid player at the next level.
Definitely, that's definitely a good list. Davion Nixon is definitely a name that is starting to go around the league a little bit more. I'm starting to hear his name a lot more lately. Bray, where do you have him on your list? If you have him on your list,
I have him at number 5.
Okay,
I have him.
Pretty
close. Okay, well, number 1 is I have Christian Barmore from Alabama. I think that like he said, he needs to get a little bit more experience. He only had one, primo year, but Alabama kind of does that, man. They just store guys until they need him to come out there and play, and he's just one of them guys that kind of just had to wait his turn. So I have Levi Ozark at number 2. Like he said again, he is a guy who's going to be a primo pass rusher from the inside. Needs to get a little bit stronger, but absolutely as a pass rusher, I can see him. He has a lot of upside. Number 3, I have Jay Trufel from USC. Another guy who's more of a pass rusher than a run stopper. I think he'll get to the quarterback a little bit better than the other guys. Again, but I like him. I know he didn't have as good a year this year as he did last year, but I still think he's a pretty good player. Number 4, I have Alan Mcneil from NC State. Another guy who's a little bit short, like only 6'2", 320, but again, he's very strong, uses his hands very well, fights off blocks very well. So I think he's a good player. And like we said, Davion Nixon, a JUCO transfer from Iowa. I have him at number 5. Again, 6'3", 305. I think he's a really good football player. I think this is a really pretty deep interior defensive line. Not that there's a lot of quality, that you have a lot of different types of guys that can fit a lot of different systems. So,
yeah, definitely it's not top heavy, I believe, but there are some quality guys that you get in there that rotational guys, some guy, maybe a player or two that will become a top guy maybe in the future with some but I don't think there's a guy that you're like, oh my god, about right now.
There's not.
Yeah. And I think it's the same. What were you saying, Ben?
Yeah, I was going to say, if I may add something, kind of something Ray was alluding to earlier, it's really deep class. I don't really think any of these guys are going to be a first-round kind of guy, and that's just a combination of there's not any real superstars, plus a lot of teams I don't think are going to be really targeting these guys in the early round, or at least on day 1. So I think we're going to see a lot of these guys go day 2, maybe like 5 or 6 of them. So I think we're going to see maybe a run when the first couple go, but not in that first round like maybe we would in past years.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think it's the same thing with the edge rushers. I mean, we got our top 5 edge rushers. You could probably say the same type of mold in that same sense there. Ray, let me hear your top 5 on the edge rushers.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with what you just said, Jerome. I think you're going to see the same thing on both sides of the line, like inside and outside guys. They're going to be like, it just depends on what your scheme is going to ask them to do. And that's really where you're going to draft these guys. I mean, I have Gregory Rousseau, number 1. I mean, I know not everybody's as high as on him as I am, but to me, when you draft on potential. This guy has everything. He has length. He has speed. He's athletic. I know he only had one really primo year at Miami, but if you're drafting on outside, he's the guy as far as I'm concerned. Number 2, I have Aziz Azuri from Georgia, another really athletic guy. He's a little bit lighter, though, probably more of a pass rusher, like right off the bat. That's really what again, scheme fit guy. You put him out there and let him play the strong side, defensive end, and just go after the quarterback. So, number 3, I have your guy, Kwity Paye from Michigan. Very versatile guy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we saw the shirt. But anyway, he's a heavy-handed guy who I think you could do some things with him as a pass rusher, but really where he's going to be is he's a good run stopper first and foremost, and then whatever he gives you on pass rush is really a primo. But again, a guy who's like moving up the board, man. Like since the end of the year, he's been like, some people have him as like a first round pick. I think he'll probably get taken like closer to the end of the first round, maybe early second. My 4 guy is Joseph Osai from Texas, another long athletic kid, 6'4", 250. And like Ben said, I don't know if any of these guys would go. I would only draft Rousseau in the first round early. Maybe Ajuro from Georgia because he's a good athlete. But I think most of these guys will probably get taken on day 2 or maybe even day 3, depending on what your scheme asks him to do. And number 5, I have Jalen Phillips from Miami. I like Jalen Phillips. I think he can do a lot of different things from you. I think he could play. He can play either side of the line of scrimmage. He's a good run defender. He's a solid pass rusher. I just think he's a good football player. And I know Miami had a down year this year. That's why people, I think when teams don't struggle a little bit like they did, I think it kind of like not moves their players down in the draft board a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Aziz Azuri, in my eyes, he kind of remind me of Leonard Floyd. Would you think that is a good comparison for him, Ray?
I think it is. I think what you're going to ask him to do right off the bat is pass rush, maybe especially third down, let him come in there and get to the quarterback. He does need to get stronger. He's only like 240-ish, so he does need to gain 10, 15 pounds of muscle. But once he does, I think he's going to be a pretty good football player.
I agree with that. All right, Ben, you're up. Let me hear your top 5.
Yeah, so I have Kwity Paye at number 1. I just think that the athleticism that he's I know that's making you happy, Jerome. But I think the athleticism that he's offering at 6'4", 270 or around that weight that he's at is just, it really elevates what he can do. And like Ray said, he's incredible against the run. He has great hands and he's explosive off the snap. So he's going to be able to get into the backfield really quickly. He is a little undisciplined, I think, at times. So coaching will definitely help him out with becoming more developed and develop some more secondary pass rush moves. But I think just the combination of his upside, his size, and his quickness and explosiveness is going to be too good for teams looking for an edge rusher in the first round to pass up on. Number 2, I got Aziz Ogilari out of Georgia. I've been on him for a few months now. I remember he was one of the first guys I broke down in one of my videos. I consider him to be the twitchiest player in this entire draft. He's got one of the highest motors I've ever seen out of a defensive lineman. He's got incredible bend. And I really think that because of his length and his speed, he might even be someone who translates over into like a 3-4 outside linebacker job where he's going to be rushing off the edge. But, he gets home with a lot of effort. He definitely needs to improve on his technique, but his speed, his athleticism, his explosiveness, I think it's really going to carry him to the next level. And maybe he'll bulk up a little bit to fit more of that traditional edge rusher defensive end role. But for now, I think he might be able to fit in that outside linebacker, but he's going to be good no matter where he is. At number 3, I have Jalen Phillips out of Miami, really highly touted prospect coming out of high school, transferred over from UCLA after not getting a ton of playing time. And really, this past year at Miami, he really excelled. He's really balanced, and I would consider him a great playmaker in both run and pass situations. And he really does have an exciting blend of size, length, power. And he did show this year at Miami that he's got a lot of moves in his arsenal that he's going to be able to pull out of his bag when he gets to the NFL. He does need to develop a little bit more consistency with his hands, but I think that'll just come with time and experience playing at the next level. At number 4, I have another Miami guy, Quincy Roche. Former member of my school, Temple University, so I got to watch him play a lot here, and I watched him a lot at Miami. He's not the biggest guy. He's only about 240, kind of the same size as Ogilari, but he might be one of the best technical pass rushers that we have in this year's class. His hands are elite, maybe top of the class in terms of placement, power, speed. And he really has a ton of flexibility and athleticism that he's going to be able to use to get around the end and break into the pocket. And then at number 5, this was a really tough one for me, but I have Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. Ray touched a lot about him, and he had him at number 1. We did only get that 1 year of experience, but he was incredible. 19.5 tackles for loss, 15.5 sacks. He's got the size and the length to really dominate any kind of offensive lineman he matches up with. And he is going to be a project because he doesn't have a lot of experience. He played a lot of safety and wide receiver in high school before. And he's going to have to develop some really good moves if he gets to the NFL because he's not going to be able to rely solely on his athleticism. But I think with the right coaching and if you put him in the right situation, he'll be able to become a really high ceiling, perennial Pro Bowl type of player.
Definitely. And I see some differences between you and Ray's list. Ray, what do you think about his list and the fact that he got Russo at number 5 instead of number 1, like you do? Do you agree with what he had to say about him?
No, I agree with everything you said. I think that to me, I draft on potential as much as anything else, and I think he has everything. He has a length. He's a solid 265, where a lot of these other guys are a little bit lighter in their shorts, as they say. I think that once he develops some secondary moves, like Ben said, I think he'll be the best player edge rusher in this draft. Yeah, but I like his other list. I like we have everybody else a little bit of a difference where we have them, but we have pretty much the same list. You know.
Ben, tell Ray why Quiddy Pay is the best edge rusher in this draft.
I mean, I touched on it a little bit before, but the guy's just a freak for how big he is, right? He's sitting around 270, and he's one of the quickest guys off the snap, I think, coming into the draft this year. And the hands, for me, when I watch edge rushers in the NFL, I'm constantly noticing that hand placement is such a huge importance, right? I mean, whether you can have the leg strength, you can have the bend, but if you're not able to get your hands into the offensive lineman and really shift him off his balance, you're not going to be successful, because these big tackles, these big offensive tackles are going to try to push you off your line. So unless you can combat that, you're not going to be great, I don't think. And I think Quiddy Pay has some of the greatest hands. Combine it with that athleticism and explosiveness, and he's going to be a guy who's constantly moving in and out of the offensive line.
You can definitely tell that Michigan teaches their edge rushers to use their hands. You've seen the last couple of years that we had some high drafted defensive linemen. So they're such a big school, and they're able to teach kids that. But we're gonna get into the small school guys, some sleeper guys that may come in. So let's come about some sleepers, interior sleepers. Ben, let's get right into it. Who's your top 3 in that category?
Yeah, so the first guy I got on my list is Jared Goldwire out of Louisville. He's definitely a little taller than you would expect for an interior defensive lineman. He's standing around 6'6". He's got 305 pounds, so he's right in the right amount, right weight class for where he is. But he's got a really great point of attack and is going to really be able to draw in those double teams from the inside and make plays in the hole. He's a guy that's going to be great against the run because he's able to really maneuver his body, and he's got really well-balanced feet too. So he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to take into that initial push that the offensive line is going to be able to give him and move around and find the holes in the offensive line. And every year at Louisville, we've seen his statistics improve. Last year, he had 22 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. And those numbers have gone up since he's been at Louisville. So I think he's a guy that might not be getting a lot of hype now, but once people dig into him a little deeper, they might like him a lot more. Next guy I have is Jerome Johnson out of Indiana. He was a starter not necessarily started, but he played a lot of downs on the Indiana line for all 4 years he was at school. And he has really long arms that he's able to use effectively when he's trying to get by these blockers. He's great against the run. He's able to move laterally really well. And while his hands might be a little bit slow and a little predictable, he does have the strength in those hands to make up for a little bit of that lack of speed. So he's a guy that, again, is going to need a little bit of coaching to figure out how he can get his hands up quicker and how he can use them more effectively, because he does have a lot of that strength. And then the last guy I have for a sleeper is Daryl Slayton out of Florida. This guy, again, massive, just absolutely huge, 6'5", 340 pounds, and or 345, I think he might be listed at, but he's the kind of guy that you look at and say, I'm going to be able to plug him in, and he's just going to be able to fill a gap in that line. If a running back's coming towards him, he's going to be the kind of guy that just needs to shift over a little bit, stretch his arm out, and wrap up and make the play. He's got a lot of endurance too. He's going to be able to stay on the field for a while, especially at his size. And he's extremely powerful at the point of attack. He's going to be the guy who's going to drive back those guards and centers right off the snap and really put a lot of pressure on the quarterback just from seeing him right in his gaze. So I think that Slayton's a guy who, again, might need to develop a little more technique and, be a little bit more explosive off the snap. But ultimately, I think he's a guy that, because of his size and his power and his effectiveness against the run, is going to find playing time on some defensive line in the NFL.
All right, awesome. Ray, let's hear your top 3.
My top 3 are, okay, well, I have Osa. I'm gonna butcher this game. I'm gonna tell you right now. It's Odighizuwa. I don't even know how to pronounce the name, but he's UCLA 6'2", 280. I think I know I'm some names I don't get, man. But
I'm not even gonna try to correct you, Ray. I'm not going to try to correct you.
Yeah, Ben, do you know the Do you know the correct pronunciation of that name, Ben, or no?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, like I like him a lot. I think he's a heavy-handed guy who's really, really good against the run. Does need to develop more secondary moves as a pass rusher, but I think he's a good football player. My second guy is Bobby Brown from Texas A&M. I really like him. I think that he's a guy who's going to be, again, he's going to come in and he's going to play really good against the run for you and then develop some pass rush moves. And my third guy is Jalen Twyman from Pittsburgh. I think that, and I only have him as a sleeper because he was really good last year and really struggled this year. And he had some at his pro day the other day, I maybe wouldn't have left him on my list if I just saw that. He really struggled on his pro day. But I think that he has enough production to where you'll take a shot with him and maybe you can find something with him, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Twyman was getting a lot of hype before coming into this year. A lot of people were saying he might have been the next Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald even said it himself. One of the guys that he, really talked to all the time and, saw him as one of the guys that will be the next him, even coming out of pick as well. A little foreshadowing, Inside the Hatches had a chance to actually interview him. So he'll be on one of the players that we interview. So make sure you check it out soon. That'll be on InsideTheHatches.com. But good list, Ray. Ben, what do you think about Ray's list?
Yeah, I like it. A lot of the guys that he has on there, especially Twyman, are these guys that, have the right mentality. And I think that's huge for people on defensive line because if you're going to be on the D-line, you're not going to win every pass rush battle or, run blocking battle that you have. But if you're able to stay with it and stay consistent and keep your motor running, those are the kind of guys that are going to be successful in the NFL. And I think the guys on Ray's list definitely have that trait.
I make it a personal rule. I never compare players to Hall of Famers, man. I just don't do it. And Aaron Donald boosting him up, probably is the reason why people are a little bit cold about him now because he struggled a little bit this year. So,
yeah. I mean, Aaron Donald was the one that endorsed that comparison. So, I mean, I know they both pick guys, and he talks to them and work with them, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. He'll be better in the NFL once maybe the hype is down a little bit. Not a lot of people looking at coaching. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I always take it like with a grain of salt when guys put beef up their own guys too. Because I remember Mac Brown said that Colt McCoy was going to be the next Drew Brees too. So pump our brakes on that, man. You know what I mean? So I'll go down.
You did that. All right,
I don't remember that, but
I do remember. He said, I can't see why he can't be a Drew Brees type of player. Well, because Drew Brees and Russell Wilson for shorter quarterbacks are the anomaly, dude. They're not it's a lot easier to try to be that guy than to be that guy. So,
right.
I agree. Let's get to our sleeper edge guys. So, Ray, let's get right into it. Who you got as your top 3 edge guys? Sleepers.
I have Carlos Basham from Wake Forest. I like Basham. I think he's or Boogie Basham is which is his nickname, but I'm a big fan. I think he can do a lot of good things for you. He's a good run defender. He gets enough pass rush to. I mean, and some people went, well, why is he a sleeper then? Because you don't hear right now. He looks like maybe he's going to be like a second or third round pick. To me, to get a guy that talented, that low, that's a sleeper. My second guy is Jordan Smith from UAB, guy who's 6'7", 255. You put another 15 pounds in this kid, and I think he could be something really special. So my third guy is Ronnie Perkins, a guy who, he had said before, Ben had said before, I could see him maybe lining up as some outside linebacker and do some special things as a pass rusher for you. So.
All right, awesome. Yeah, the whole thing on Carlos Boogie Basham, I agree with you, right? I think that after the season got cooled down a little bit, but after his Senior Bowl, he had a really good Senior Bowl. So I think that he's those sleeper guys that people kind of fell off on him, but I think he's going to be productive in the NFL. Ben, who you got as your top 3 sleeper edge rushers?
Yeah, so the first guy I got is Shaka Toney out of Penn State. He doesn't get a lot of attention because Jason Owe is on the same line, and last year he had Yetur Gross-Matos on the same line. But in both of the last 2 years, he's been the most productive guy on the Penn State defensive line. He has really great quickness and release off the snap, and he pairs that with a really nice motor and a lot of good endurance. He's not the biggest guy. He's only standing around 6'3", 230, 235. So he might be another one of these guys that's going to transition into an outside linebacker in a 3-4 kind of in a set. But he's got a lot of moves in his bag that he's going to be able to use to get home. And one of the biggest questions for me with him especially is when he gets to the NFL, is he going to be someone who is, asked to add weight so he can stay in that traditional edge rusher role? Is he going to be asked to stay there and, add some more pass coverage ability so he can play more linebacker? But I think ultimately he's someone that will be a productive guy because of that endurance and because of his ability to get to the quarterback. The next guy I have is Peyton Turner out of Houston. Another one of these really, really big guys, 6'6", 270. And he's had a really great and kind of a little bit of a quiet career at Houston, but he's been really productive. He's best suited to play in that kind of 4-3 defensive end role. And the best parts of his game are his length, his physicality, and his power. He's like a lot of these guys, he's explosive off the line, and he's able to really disrupt offensive linemen and get them off their balance with his hands and his arm length. He's able to really rush the passer, but he's also got some plus run defending skills as well. He's versatile. He's going to be able to play all over the defensive line. And he's not someone who's going to need a ton of development, but he will need a little bit, maybe a year or two watching and learning from his coaches and the other players on his team. But I think he's someone who eventually will become a solid starter for some NFL team. And then the last guy I got on my list is Joe Tyron out of Washington. Another bigger guy, 6'5", around 260. And the best parts about him is his athleticism and his body control. He's really got some loose hips that he's able to use to get bend and, turn and use some of the spin moves that he's got in his arsenal. And he's going to be a guy that's setting the edge is not going to be an issue for him in the NFL. He's explosive. And I think he has a lot of upside with some good coaching if he's able to get it. And he's another guy who, while he's probably going to play a lot of defensive end, a lot of traditional defensive end, I think he's another guy who could potentially move out to outside linebacker. If he does, he might have to shed some weight to get a little bit quicker. But ultimately, his explosiveness and his length is going to be something that he uses a lot in the NFL.
100% agree with that. I think that that's a good list. Ben, what do you think about that list, right?
I like his list. I think Ben is a really good list. I just think that, again, it just depends, like scheme specific, man. All these guys I see are going to be like depending on what you want them to do. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I agree. It depends on where they go. What type of team they go to, what kind of scheme they're going to, all that.
That's why, I do some stuff on Twitter, but I try not to get too involved because some people get really personal. Like if you don't like their guy as much as they do, they get really upset about it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it could be personal preference too,
There's the thing, like in Ben's list, my list, there's a reason why there are lists. Right. Everybody, you could have 5 different guys here. And of course, a couple of the guys are going to be similar. They may be like in different order, but there's a reason why there are lists. Like some guys might, like you said, I love defense. Mm-hmm. I love defensive linemen. I like linebackers even more than the NFL does, to be honest with you.
You don't like DBs?
I don't dislike DBs. I think they're the most important guy on the team. That's all. That's all. It's not that I don't like DBs. I understand you need – Jerome, you're talking about the team. I'm a Dolphins fan. Who has a better tandem of corners than I do?
Nobody.
All right. There you go. All right.
But yeah, like Ray was saying, no two evaluators are going to have the same things that they're looking for, right? One person might value athleticism and agility, one person might value size and power. So it's all personal preference. You can't take anything personally.
Like you guys look, Ben saw Kwity Paye, and don't get me wrong, we both see a good football player. I see Brandon Graham though. That's what I see when I see Kwity Paye, who's a really good football player. But he's not an elite pass rusher. He's a good, solid pass rusher. And most of the time when you're talking about edge rushers, you're talking about guys that get to the quarterback.
I agree with that. Well, let's get right into our next ones. Then let's get to our sleepers. So these are guys that, small school guys that are not in big schools, that schools that a lot of people are talking about, not in the Power 5 conference. So Ben, we're gonna start with you. Who's your top three in that category for interior defensive lineman?
Mm-hmm. So first guy I have is Milton Williams out of Louisiana Tech. He's a guy who over the past 2 seasons has, his draft stock has gone about, it's just shot up. It's he's been really showing a lot of development and a lot of, development in his pass rushing. But he's a guy who is really easily able to alter his plan of attack. He's not going to be someone that comes into a certain down with one move in his mind, one angle he's trying to attack. He's someone who's going to be able to be really flexible and really be able to redirect his plan of action. He's really strong for his size, and he's really able to make plays against the run too, especially from that inside position. And if he does, he has played on the edge a little bit, and he has showed some good bend. So, he does have potential to be a really good pass rusher and run defender at the next level. He's athletic and agile, but he's not really as quick or sudden as some of the other linemen in this class. Next guy I have is Forrest Merrill out of Arkansas State. Another one of the smaller guys, not too big, but I think if he had the size, frame, and length that some of the other guys in this class do, we'd be talking about him as maybe an early day 2 future starter kind of guy. He's really wide and he has a really strong upper and lower body, so he's going to be really good against the run and pushing blockers off of their point of attack. He plays with a lot of leverage, and he really has good eyes too. He keeps it in the backfield, great play recognizer, and he's got a lot of the upper body strength to rock the blockers off of their heels. The biggest problem with him though is that his agility is not a question, but it's sometimes he uses it too much, where he'll overcommit and miss some tackles. And his arms too are not the longest, but he does have a lot of strength in them as well. And the last guy I got on my list is Alif Fayyad. I believe I said his name right, out of Western Michigan. A guy who's not an elite pass rusher, but if he's able to put on a little bit more muscle, we could see him develop into that kind of role. But ultimately, he plays with a lot of leverage, whether he's attacking inside or outside. And, like Forrest Merrill, that I just mentioned, he's got his eyes in the backfield constantly. He's been a guy with great play recognition, be able to move in between tackles and in between blocks to find the holes in the line. And he is quick. He's really quick off the line. He's got a lot of explosiveness and good upper body strength that he's going to be able to use to his advantage at the next level.
Nice list. All right, Ray, who you got as your small school guys?
Okay, I have Cam Sample from Tulane. He's 6'3", 280. Big, nice physical defensive end. Inside pass rusher. He does a good job there. You can see where he may be able to play a little 3-tech, maybe a little defensive end on first and second down, but I have him at number 1. I have Infani Meju from Temple. Nice local kid. Actually, again, a big kid, 6'2", 285. Nice, solid athlete. A guy who's an effort guy, though, dude. Good motor. Doesn't give up on plays. And I have Mike Winken from Northern Alabama. Again, 6'6", 295. A guy who shows some decent pass rush moves from the inside. Good football player. I think, again, scheme fit, man. You get the guy that fits your scheme. I think you have a lot of depth here. I'm just not sure if you have, high, caliber players. If you notice, we didn't talk at all about Marvin Wilson. Last year, this time, we were talking about Marvin Wilson maybe even being our first-round pick. And then this is why when you have a big year, man, enter the draft. Your game film, when you put primo game film out there, man, go with it. Don't wait. If you do, you're probably going to cost yourself a few dollars, man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. One guy that you say I want to highlight is Cam Sample. I love Cam Sample. I got to say him at the Senior Bowl. He's one of those guys that I think you can move him all around the line. Whatever situation you want to pin him at, you can pin him on the end, you can pin him inside, like you said, right? Edge on the first and second downs. That's a guy I really, really love. So I love Cam Sample.
I think if you take him and you're going to play like a 3-4, he's perfect for a 3-4 system as a 3-tech defensive end. So
Ray, I actually see him being in somewhere like Miami.
I think that out of the guys that I mentioned, he's the one guy who may get drafted fairly early, fifth round, maybe. You know.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, let's get to your edge rushers, right? Who you got for them?
Edge rushers are I got Jordan Smith from UAB, a guy who I'm really high on. Again, talked to him about like with the sleeper a couple minutes ago. 6'7", 255. When this guy fills out, I think he's going to be a really, really good football player. Number 2, I had Peyton Turner. I think Ben talked to him about him like 5 or 10 minutes ago. I like Peyton Turner again, 6'5", 270. The guy who's really good at the point of attack, very good run player. The question is he going to be able to develop some moves and give you something as a pass rusher? And my third guy is Ellerson Smith, a guy who's really been actually moving up the draft boards a little bit. At one point, I think he was considered an undrafted free agent. I think he'll probably get drafted now. So.
All right. Ben, who you got?
Yeah, so my first guy, like Ray just mentioned, Ellerson Smith out of Northern Iowa. He's another one of these really big edge rushers, 6'6", around 260 pounds. And his greatest trait is length. He's really able to use his length to get around the edge and bend, around the edge and get into the pocket. And for a guy of his size, he is kind of a graceful mover. He's got exceptional get off the line. He's got a lot of lateral agility and some elite explosiveness for his size. I think it is worthy to note, though, that on a lot of his tape that you're going to see, if you do look him up, he's playing around 15 to 20 pounds lighter than he is now. So, I think in the last few months he has added some weight, which is going to help him on the line with some of his strength. But again, his length is elite for this class, even among some of the big school guys. He's going to be able to compete against the larger linemen and really be able to, use his hands and his length to maneuver in and out. The next guy I have is Taryn Jackson out of Coastal Carolina. And he's a guy who has been, one of the more productive guys in college the last couple seasons. Over the last 2 years, he's posted 18 sacks and 26 and a half tackles for loss. Those are just really great numbers. He's not the biggest guy, and he's got decent size. He's 6'2", 260. And he is really dense, though, and he plays with plenty of strength in his frame, and he did flash that a lot at Coastal Carolina. His hands do need a little bit of work in terms of his accuracy and where he puts them, but his awareness of when to make a move, when to move in and out, and when to release is really special, I feel like. And then the last guy I have is Malcolm Kuntz out of Buffalo. Another one of these lanky, long-arm defenders who has a ton of experience playing both upright in a three-point stance, and he's another guy who uses his length to his advantage. And he's different from Ellerson Smith. He's a guy who is able to combine his length and his hands and really be able to rip through blocks and get after the quarterback. His bend could use a little bit of work. He's not as mobile as maybe he could be or as teams would like him to be. But I think when he's in the zone and when he's able to use his length, he's going to be a really nice edge setter at the next level.
Definitely, I like the list, Ben. Taryn was one of the players that we interviewed as inside the hashes. So definitely a guy that we look closely to. I really hope that he gets drafted. I think he will get drafted. Late round guy. Somebody will fall in love with him. He's such a great guy, great character guy as well. So I think that I think sometimes teams kind of put their trust in players like that sometimes too as well, and small school guys. So I think he'll get drafted in the tail end of that as well. Particularly, his character as well. Go ahead, Ben.
You mind if I add one more guy to my list?
Sound like Ray right now. Go ahead.
I know. I gotta add a 3B. But I gotta mention Chris Garrett out of Concordia St. Paul, D2 player. Someone who I'm sure many people in the draft community have not heard about yet, but he's a guy that I think could get drafted. He was pretty much a unanimous first-team All-American in Division II for the last 2 years, and he's just this guy who has a knack for getting after the quarterback. He's not someone that you're going to have to teach a lot of moves, teach hand placement, teach bend, teach anything really. It's just that he's been playing against weaker competition, but I think he's someone who, if given the chance, could become one of these D2 guys that becomes a success story in the NFL. So look out for Chris Garrett.
All right, giving us a little insight in that.
I agree with Ben there. I think that all of these guys add a little bit of different little spice to your front. The only thing that may hurt especially a guy like that, is no combine. If they had a combine, you could have got their hands on these guys. I think all these guys that we mentioned, which is crazy, will probably get drafted, but they may have went a little bit earlier than they probably will if there would have been a combine somewhere. So,
100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. Let's get into our last point of our podcast. You guys already know this is my favorite part, the best fit game. So I'm gonna give you guys a list of teams. You're gonna tell me what player fits with that team. I think this was gonna probably be the most different because it's gonna be, different schemes, and I think it's gonna be, different positions and different opinions, and it's not a clear-cut guy. Like, if you was talking about tight end, everybody would say Kyle Pitts for everybody, or if you would say quarterback, everybody would say Trevor Lawrence. This one is no clear-cut guy, so there'd be different opinions. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. So we're gonna go, person by person on this, since we were running a little bit behind on time. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna start with Ben, and you got the Bills with the edge rusher. Who do you think would be a good edge rusher for the Bills?
So the Bills, I like Jalen Phillips for the Bills. He's a guy that is probably a scheme fit for a lot of teams that are looking for a pass rusher, but he's someone who's going to be really versatile all over the line, and someone that I think could fit really well in the Bills scheme. So I like him. Also, Jason Owe. I think he's another guy that could fit just really the Bills are a team that need kind of a little bit of immediate pass rush help, and those two guys are really polished. Not guys that are going to really be developmental, and guys that can move all around the D-line.
All right, awesome. Ray, I'm gonna give you the Browns. Give them somebody opposite of Myles Garrett.
The Browns. Let me see where I have them. You know what? I'm going to give them a Azuri. I think they could use a guy who's just a pass rusher specialist, and I think that's what he will be special at, and especially when he first starts his career. So.
Nice.
This is my least favorite part of this, Jerome.
I know.
Really,
I
because I know what every team in my division needs, and I know because of where we live what the Eagles, like the NFC East. But these other teams, okay,
well, Ben, we're gonna stay in Cleveland with the Browns. They're the interior defensive line as well. Who can you give them?
Interior defensive line. Let me see here.
That's for Ben.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. My page.
Interior defensive line. I think Marvin Wilson could be a good fit for the Browns. A guy who's just uber athletic, and he does have a little bit of issues off the field and injury issues, but he's someone who is going to be able to really be a game wrecker, I think, and the Browns could use that in the interior.
All right. Right, I got you with the LA Chargers. They need an edge rusher. Melvin Ingram is, I think he's still in free agency, if I'm not mistaken. They need somebody opposite of Joey. So who you got for them?
You know what? For edge rusher, I'm going to give them a Quiddy Pay. I think a twitchy guy like that could actually help them a lot. Guy who's a really solid, good run defender who can give you some pass rush. Yeah, I know, Drew. I know. I honestly do. I think that he can fit their defensive scheme very well because they like to use their rushers as a guy who plays the run first and then gets to the quarterback. So I think that's where Pay he'll excel there at that spot. So,
all right, Ben, I'm gonna give you the Super Bowl defenders. The Bucks need interior linemen. They got they just got the Dominican Sue back, but I think with his age and everything like that, they might want to get younger. So who you got for them?
Yeah, for the Bucks, I said this name before for the Bills, but I really think Jason Owe would be a really nice fit in Tampa Bay. He's a guy who, again, someone who's gonna be able to give you immediate help on the defensive side, and he's someone who I think could really thrive under the tutelage of some of the guys they got there now, Shaq Barrett, JPP. I think he's someone that if he develops a couple more moves, he's going to be really nice. And I think he's a pretty decent scheme fit for them as well.
I like that. That's perfect, actually.
All right.
You let him go in and work under Jason Pierre-Paul, and then it kind of like very similar builds coming out of college. I think that could be a great fit, actually.
Right.
Sorry, man.
Right. I'm gonna give you the Cowboys. Down here, they need their defense was atrocious. They need some linemen in general. So interior defensive linemen for the Cowboys.
Interior defensive lineman for the Cowboys. You know what? I'm going to go Jay Tufel from USC. I think that he's a good pass rusher. He's a good run defender. Dallas needs to stop the run better than they did last year, and that's where really they should start there. Because if you can run for like 120 yards every game against you, you're not going to win many games. So, you know.
All right. Ben, we're going to stay with America's team. They need edge rushers. They just lost what's his name? Alden Smith. So they released him after 1 year. So they need some edge rusher on the opposite side of Tank Lawrence. Who you got for him?
I think Ronnie Perkins could be a really good fit for the Cowboys. You know, someone who plays in a traditional defensive end role in a 4-3 scheme, and he plays a lot with his hand in the dirt or standing up. So I think he's someone who could fit on that Cowboys line and someone who could really, you know, he's not someone that's going to need a ton of development. Someone that could probably play pretty early on, but he's a really nice fit in the 4-3. So I think he'll be good with the Cowboys.
All right, thank both of you for not giving them a Michigan guy, because every time they get a Michigan guy, it seems like they do wrong by them. But Ray, we're gonna get to your favorite team. You're gonna get the Dolphins. They need edge rush help. Who are you gonna give to them?
You know what? I want Gregory Rousseau. I do. I think that in Miami's fit, you need a guy who can play. He's going to play a little 3 tech because Miami's defense, like, do they play a 4-3? No, not really. Do they play a 3-4? Not all the time. They use that Carolina phrase, positionless defense. You see them play with 2 defensive linemen sometimes, 3 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. It varies from down to down. So I have every time I do a mock draft, I have Miami taking him like either I know people are going to think this is too early, either 18 or 36. But again, I go on potential. I think the kid is going to be special. But again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, keep him hometown kid, keep him in the home, and with the Dolphins defense, they are a very hybrid-esque defense.
Correct.
So I definitely work for them.
And I just think that, like, if you bring him in there, he doesn't really have to play right away. You bring him in on 3rd down, let him get to the quarterback, and that's really where he's going to excel in the beginning, I believe.
100%. All right, let's get to Ben, another team that had troubles on defense. Let's get the Falcons, the edge rusher.
Ooh, the Falcons with an edge rusher. This is tough, because they do. You have to give me a minute on this one. I think Boogie Basham could be a decent fit for the Falcons. He's someone who can play both 4-3 or 3-4. I don't know I'm not too well versed in the Falcons scheme, but I'm pretty sure they don't stick to 1 too consistently. But I think he's someone who could really fit in there nice, just because of that versatility, because of his ability to play against the pass and the run.
All right, awesome. All right, we're gonna just do like 2 more. Ray, we're gonna get you with the Seahawks. They've been looking for edge rushers the last couple of drafts. It have been working out for them, overreaching on people. Who you think would be a good fit for them?
You know what? I'm going to go with Ronnie Perkins with them. I think that he can. Seattle likes to use multiple fronts. They usually like to rush guys from different spots in their line. They are the weirdest team to predict, though, man, because when you think you know what they're going to pick, they pick somebody else. So yeah. I just went with him because I think he's very versatile. Again, Pete Carroll's a very good defensive coach, and I think he can use a guy like that, like scheme fit, actually. So,
all right, and Ben, you're gonna end us off with the Ravens. They need an edge rusher. They don't have Ndakwe. Yannick how you say his last name?
Ngakwe, I believe.
Ngakwe. Yeah. So Ben, give him an edge rusher.
I kind of like Quincy Roche for them. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a comparison to Ngakwe, but Ngakwe is a guy who is able to use a lot of technical gifts along with his athleticism. And I think Roche fits that role nicely as well.
All right, awesome. Well, that's gonna do it for us today. Thank you guys for checking us out. Hopefully, my guy Quiddy Pay gets picked the first guy, go blue. The reason, by the way, guys, the reason I'm wearing this shirt, I have to represent my team because we just interviewed Ben Mason inside the Hashes. Ben Mason's a fullback. We talked about him in our last podcast. So if you haven't seen our last podcast, go check that out. Ben Mason is a very versatile fullback, and I had to represent him today. Good guy. Super happy to have my Michigan guys. We get to interview them, so it's I love it. I love it. And if you haven't heard, we also interviewed Nico Collins as well. So go check that out. InsideTheHashes.com. You can also find all our player interviews. A lot of guys that we talk about, we interview or we go into interview. Check that out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Just search Inside the Hashes. Also, check us out on all the social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Go in there, check us out, interact with us. We love to talk to you guys. We interact with, we got the player interviews, we got gaming, we got draft analysts, we got mock drafts. And speaking of mock drafts, check us out next week right here on YouTube, right here on Facebook Live. We're gonna have our and on Twitter Live. We're gonna have our mock draft, our 2.0 mock draft. Ben's gonna be there. We're gonna have Ray's gonna be there, of course. We're gonna have Jacob there, and we're gonna have Jack there. So make sure you go check this out next week. We're gonna have that. It's gonna be fun. See how the mock draft is gonna be right after the free agency. It's not gonna be the same as last time. So check that out next week. Final mock draft. Before we get off, Ben, you wanna give your plug?
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure to go to Twitter, follow me at ITH Ben Schwartz. Also, make sure to hop over to YouTube, look up Hashing Out the Draft. A lot of great draft analysis, breaking down some players, looking at some film. Make sure to check it out.
Ray, you want to shout out your phone book information?
It's like Ray Rob ITH. I mean, I just don't. Again, I don't get too involved on Twitter, man. I think that I hate to say this, there are a lot of crazy people on Twitter, man. I'm not gonna lie about it. I mean, I have people that I'll just respond to somebody else every once in a while, and then people will come after you. And I mean, I don't have time for that stuff, man. I'm too old for that stuff, dude. I respect everybody's opinion. I don't agree with everyone's opinion, but I respect everybody's opinion. That's why it's your opinion. So
definitely keep it nice, guys. Keep it nice out there. Remember, we're all humans still. Just because you're behind the keyboard, don't mean you have to come attacking people. Everybody has their opinion. So let's just keep it at that. So that's my little spill with that. But guys, thank you so much for checking us out. Again, like I said, next week we're gonna have our mock draft. Super excited to do that 2.0 live mock draft. So make sure you check it out. 7:00 next week, next Wednesday. And thank you all, everybody that's been checking us out the last couple of weeks. We really do appreciate that. Right after the mock draft, we're going to have our linebackers. So we're going to talk about linebackers. If you guys are excited about linebackers, check that out in a couple of weeks as well. But I'd like to say thank you, guys. Check us out on all our social medias, like I said earlier. And thank you so much for checking us out. This is Jerome Jones. We got Ray Roberts, and we got Ben Schwartz. Thank you guys so much, and have a good week. Stay safe out there.